So you decided you wanted some extra publicity for your business, and you've put $1,000 into one of the online advertising platforms. But do you really have a foundational understanding of what you're doing? Today, we're going to take a look at the book Breakthrough Advertising by Eugene Schwartz, one of the well-respected foundational books on marketing, and we'll cover market forces, how we can create a good headline, and how we can create good body copy. So let's get started. What I think is interesting about this book is that Eugene doesn't just teach us how to sell like a specific product, but he really teaches us to think more about the macro level, how markets work on like a global or like a macro scale, that we can understand how these markets affect us and how we affect these markets. And that's pretty unique and a high level way to think about things, because we're not just thinking about just selling something superficially, but we're really trying to understand how we can use all these things going on around us, that we can use that to our advantage so we can move things at scale. And that's why I think marketing, and especially this book, is quite interesting. Now, Eugene talks about market forces, and we have permanent market forces and we have temporary market forces. So these are basically mass market desires. These are not just some individual desire, but these are again desires at like a big scale. And these permanent market forces, these are permanent desires. And so Eugene describes this as like mass instinct desires, things that we all have as humans. That's just naturally part of what we want and naturally part of our desires and biology. And these things never change. This is like things like we all need sleep, we all need to eat, we all need health, we all probably want to make money, we all probably want to be happy. These are all the things that like never change. Then we have temporary market forces, which is like the opposite of that. And that's like social trends and shifts in political dynamics and things like that. The interesting thing to discover here is that these desires, they already exist out there in the world, in the global markets. They are already there. So what's interesting about marketing is that we don't create a desire for our products, because the desires are already there. And this might seem like a simple idea, but the reality is that a lot of marketers, especially beginning marketers, they think they need to create desire for their product, which is not true. The desire is already there. So we just need to use those desires and channel those desires, link those desires to our products. And that's like a big shift in thinking. Another thing that we can note is that we want to make things as simple as possible. And so we want to channel the desires that are most easily accessible and that are going to lead to the most sales in the easiest way. And usually that's just like creating advertisements that for people that already know about the products. But sometimes it's also, as an advertiser, it's not very efficient to create advertisements for educational purposes, because usually these are things that the government does. The government usually educates people on why this is healthy or why this is a good idea. And these are forces that change the market desires, but they apply to a lot of different vendors and a lot of different business owners. So we don't want to educate the market because we don't have the money and the power to do that, or like it wouldn't be efficient for us to do that. But we can focus on our subsection that's actually applicable to us. Then we'll create a much more efficient system. And that's what Eugene empowers us to think about here. One other thing to note is that the core principle of Eugene Schwartz is that when we market a product or a service, what we want to do is we want to focus on the desire and the benefits. Because people have these desires that's literally a desire is something that someone wants and craves. And so what we want to do is we want to focus these things, and we want to remember people about those things, and we want to intensify those things. But what we don't want to focus on is the features. So the features are things like a car's seat that's being made out of leather. The features are like, hey, this software has a specific login method. Because these features, these are not the things that people want. What people want, they might want the car for social status, they might want the car for ease of transport. These are the desires, but the features, that's not really a desire. The features, we use those to justify the desires. While the features can create a belief in the people that they will fulfill the desires. The features are proof that the desire can be attained, but they're not the desire itself. And so Eugene says basically the most important thing is to focus on the desires and not the features. One very big part of the book is how we can basically create a good headline. That's because it's a very important part of creating good advertisements. If we don't have something that pulls attention from the right people, then we can have the best ad in the world, but if they don't even look at it and it doesn't pique their interest, then we're never going to sell anyone on anything. So that's why we want to have a good headline, or you could say a good hook for our advertisement. So in the first part of the book, Eugene talks about awareness levels and sophistication levels. These don't just apply to the headline, but they are things that are very important to think about before we start creating advertisements. And these also apply to the headline. So awareness levels, and again, we're thinking about a macro level here. Awareness levels is how aware is the market of the desire that our product fulfills, and how aware are they of the product of the problems that they have. The market could be unaware, they could be problem aware, they could be solution aware, product aware, or most aware. And these concepts seems quite simple on the surface, but it takes a lot of nuance to really understand all of these categories. Most aware is basically someone who has heard about your products and he knows everything about your products and he wants your products and he's just waiting for something to buy. What these people want is they just want the reason to buy. They just want usually some kind of a promotion or a discount, or maybe just being remembered about it, and then these people will buy. Product aware, these are people that know your products. They might not know all the ins and outs, but they have a decent understanding of what your product does. And they also kind of want it, but they're not really convinced yet. So what we can do for product aware people is we need to prove that we are trustworthy as like a business and as like someone who delivers a product or a service. we need to explain people more about your product so that they learn maybe things they didn't know, or maybe certain benefits or features they didn't know that we had. We can intensify the desire for these people to just remember, but also intensify them by using certain wordings and patterns. But basically, what these people need is they just want more trust, and they just want maybe to see better how good your product is for them. Solution aware are people that they don't know your product, but your product fulfills a certain desire. So your product might be personal training, but your desire that's linked to that, one of those desires, it will be, I want to lose weight. So solution aware are people that are aware of their desire that they want to lose weight. And they also know that there are some solutions out there, but they don't know maybe all the options, and they don't maybe know everything about how that works. So these are people that are like, they know that there is a solution out there, but they're still looking for the specific solution that will help the best with them. And so what these people need is they need to learn more about your specific solution, how that compares to other solutions, why your solution is better than the others. And basically, they need proof that your product will fulfill their desire, and that they will reach this desire in an easy, fast, and beneficial way. Problem aware are people that they don't know of any solutions yet. Like, let's take the desire, I want to lose weight. These are the people that they're aware that they have a specific problem. They are aware they feel overweight. They don't feel good about themselves, but they might not have been starting looking for solutions yet, or maybe they don't believe that a solution is possible yet. But they are very aware of their problems, and they don't feel good about having them. So what we want to do for problem aware is usually we want to agitate their problem, because we want people to be fed up enough with their problems that they want to look for a solution. So what we want to do is we want to have a balance here between agitating their problems, like showing them that, hey, you need to do something here or this is going to get worse. So that's a part you need to have, but then you also need to have a part where you empathize with your prospects and you show them that, hey, maybe they've tried like a lot of things in the past and it didn't work, or like they've been promised things before, like, and we've tried doing that and it never works. And so you need to have a lot of empathy here, and then you need to show that there is a solution possible for them. And that's basically what problem-aware people need and want. These are not people that are looking for a solution yet, because they still need to be taken a little bit over the line. But once we take them over the line, then we empathize and offer our solution. So there's one level that's above that, and that's like unaware. And like, these are the people that like really needs education, because they don't know, they're either completely not aware that they have a problem, or like they're so sensitive to it that they've shoved it down in their subconscious. So what these people need is either just like education that they have a problem, or you need to address the fact that they have a problem in a very indirect and sensitive way. That's basically unaware. And we do that by being very very indirect, by telling stories that talk about some circumstance that's somehow related to what they might be experiencing. but we go very slow in unaware advertising. And that's also the most difficult advertisements to make, because you really need a good, convincing, to be able to take someone from they don't know anything about their problems to someone that actually wants to do something about their problems. Like, there's a lot of steps you're going to have to tackle in between before someone is going to take action. So that's why this is the most difficult advertisements to make. And this is usually not done except for companies that are working like on a global scale and they want to reach even more people. Then usually we go more and more and more unaware, because we've already reached all the people that know they have a problem and know they want a solution. So the second part is the sophistication levels of the market. And basically this means how much have people been promised before, how much have they been exposed to advertisements before, and how fed up are they with their advertising, basically. Or what do they still believe and what do they no longer believe? That's basically how you should think about the sophistication. So sophistication is talked about in levels. And we have level 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Level 1 sophistication is just like a very simple market, like your product is new, people have never heard about it, or it's never been advertised before. What you can do in that case is basically just state that your product is there and it does something. Very, very simple. Level 2 is your product is still pretty new, or it's never been advertised that much before, but there are some people who are starting to advertise for it as well. And then basically what you want to do here is you want to keep things pretty simple as well, but you want to promise a little bit more than what the other people have promised. Level 3 sophistication is basically now you're starting to have like some people advertising here and there, and people are starting to know about your things and they might no longer believe the basic claims. And now, because people no longer believe these claims or they've been promised too much, what we need to do now is we can't promise more, but we can promise something different. And this is what we call a new mechanism. Some kind of something new, something different that gives people hope or a reason to believe, well, hey, maybe with this new way of doing things, it's actually going to be possible or more reasonable to reach this desired solution. That's what we call a new mechanism. Then we have level 4 sophistication, and that's one, this is already a very, very sophisticated market, and a lot of people have already promised a lot of stuff here. And there's people coming left and right with new mechanisms, someone promising this mechanism, someone promising another mechanism. And what we want to do here is we want to take these mechanisms and we want to promise more about these mechanisms. We want to take this mechanism and we want to eliminate certain restrictions, or we want to basically show that this mechanism is like emphasize how amazing it is, basically. Then level 5 sophistication is like where people have basically heard everything, they've been promised everything, they no longer believe anything, they've been promised the world, they've tried everything, nothing works, so they just don't believe anything anymore because everything is talking and trying everything to get this product sold, but nobody believes it anymore. So that's what we call level 5 sophistication, and that's a very, very complex market. And in modern times, usually we're moving more and more towards more and more complex markets because we've been advertising for years now and people are very exposed to these things. So oftentimes we are in this level, or usually it's like level 3, 4, or 5. But level 5 is the most complex, most sophisticated markets. And here you can't promise anything anymore. This is where you just need to take a similar approach as to people who are unaware, because at this point, people are so sensitive to any promises and they no longer believe that anything works, that we just instead need to take a very empathic approach. And we need to just identify with our markets. We don't need to promise anything. We can't promise anything, but we just need to identify with how our market feels at this moment. And we don't try to sell something, or at least not soon. We might try to hint at something later on, but we don't want to promise or sell anything when we first get their attention. We just want to identify with how they feel or how they are in that moment. All right, so these are the 5 sophistication stages. And basically awareness levels and sophistication levels play together, because you need to think about your products, which type of advertisements you can make. Think about these things, and this will give you more insights that you can use in your next advertisements. And these are things that they apply to your advertisement as a whole, but especially they apply to your headline. Because if you have a headline that's, for example, product aware, then you might have a headline that mentions your product. Let's say it's, I don't know, let's say you're selling, let's say you're selling wallets. Then you would actually have like wallet in your headline. I'm not sure if this is the best example, but you would have the name of your product in your headline because you're addressing people who already know and sort of desire your product. If you have a problem-aware headline, these are people that don't know your product yet, but they have the problem that your product solves, and they are aware that they have this problem, then you wouldn't mention your product anywhere in this headline because it's not relevant for these people. But instead, you would bring up the problem in a unique way, or in a way that is relevant and pulls their attention. And so that's how you can think about these things. What's also important to creating a good headline is once you've thought of the awareness level and the sophistication level that you want to use, now we need to think about how can we make this headline more appealing? Because you might have someone, let's say you're making a headline that's product aware and that's sophistication level 3 with a new mechanism. Okay, you might have, let's say, wallets with a new folding system or something like that. That would be the new mechanism. And so if we just think about that, then we just have a very superficial headline that might be accurate, but it's still very simple. And what Eugene gives here is he gives us several patterns that we can use for headlines, basically to make them more enticing, which is basically like promising speeds, promising size, measuring the size of the claim. There are like 38 patterns that he uses. You can look them up online. I'm sure you'll find them. Just look up 38 headline patterns, Eugene Schwartz. And these are like mechanisms, or not mechanisms, but like tactics that we can use to basically make the headline a little bit more appealing and just sometimes just different. And so what you think about all these things, awareness level, sophistication level, and headline patterns, you're well on your way to creating a really good headline. So creating a good headline and thinking about awareness levels, sophistication levels, and headline patterns is like you're already halfway or even a little bit over halfway to having a great advertisement. And now what's still lacking is just the body copy. And the body copy is what sells them more. The headline is what pulls them in, and what pulls them in a powerful and relevant way. But the copy is how we then take the people and we move them in again, and we move them in again, and we move them in again, so that we can lead the prospect on a journey, and we can keep showing them different ways on how our product or service is amazing for them or applies to them or will lead to something amazing in their life. And that's what we do with body copywriting. And so Eugene has 7 breakthrough techniques for this. This is discussed in the second part of his book. And basically, there are 3 of these 7 that are the most important. These are intensification, identification, and gradualization. So with these 3 techniques, which are discussed in detail in his book, these basically cover desire, personality, and belief. So these are like 3 very important things we need to tackle in our ad. And we don't need to choose one of these 3. We can, depending on what we want to achieve with our advertisements, we can play with this, but usually it's like a mix of these 3. And we need to interweave these 3 elements into our body copy. But like I said, a lot depends on the state of your market and which specific advertisements you want to make. But usually these are the 3 most important elements that you need to think about in terms of actual copywriting. So intensification is going to be bringing to his attention the desire and then amplifying that desire. And it's basically very important that we focus on this desire and we keep putting our product or whatever he's going to get or from this product, we keep looking at it through a different perspective, so that each time we give an insight to our reader through some wordings or sentences that we use, each time we're giving him a new experience, a new lens to view things through, so that he keeps on getting a better idea of what this product will do for him. And this will strengthen his desire because now it's very clear to him. But there are different ways we can do this. You can look this up, but basically there are just different methods that we can use. We can use metaphors, analogies, imagination. We can show how easy it is to get benefits. We can picture the black side, which is like, there might be other products out there that have certain drawbacks that we don't have. We can show experts that approve of our products. We can show our benefits and how that will look for them in time. So maybe after 2 weeks, this will happen. After a month, this will happen. And after 2 months, this will happen. We could show him how he can test our claims for himself. We can show him how not just the product looks, but what benefits it gives to the reader and like how the experience will be like. And like these are like a lot of different tactics that you can use, and you can look them up. Identification is about personality. It's about thinking about what values does our reader or our prospect have, and how do they want to look on themselves, and then how do they want other people to view themselves. And usually these two are correlated, but it's good to think about both of them. But the main thing is like what kind of person do they want to become or be, basically. That's what identification is. And then we'll link our product to that person. And how we can do that, we need to do that in a way that they can believe that. So what we need to do is we need to take the image that's already there of our products, and we need to either amplify that image if it's a good image, or we need to decrease the intensity of that image if we don't have a good image. For example, way back when people were advertising cigarettes, there was some time where people were really concerned about health issues, and then I'm not sure if this was maybe the most ethical advertising back then, but what advertisers were looking for a way to, they couldn't deny the health benefits or the health drawbacks, but they would focus on different reasons why people would still buy. And what you can also do is just building a bridge between the image that your product currently has and the image that you want your prospect to link with your product. But you need to do that in a believable way. And then the third one is gradualization, and this one is about belief. Because you could promise the world, but if people don't believe it, then it doesn't matter. So that's why gradualization is a thing in copywriting. And this basically means just leading the prospect from whatever he currently believes and slowly building that up by showing proof or by leading him by logical arguments that your product will do what you say it does. Maybe because other people have achieved this result, maybe because experts approve of it, maybe because you can use some sort of logic, or there are certain like ninja tricks and wording tricks you can use here as well. But basically, you need to gradually improve the belief of your prospects in your product. That's what gradualization is. So these are the three most important techniques in good copywriting: intensification, identification, and gradualization. And we need to usually interweave those three and make a good structure for advertisement. There are 7 breakthrough techniques, so these are the first most important 3, but there are also 4 others that Eugene mentions. These are mechanization, redefinition, camouflage, and concentration. So mechanization is basically when we were talking about sophistication levels in the market. This is like sophistication level 3 and 4 when we introduce a new mechanism. Mechanization is like when we really focus on the mechanism, when you don't just put the mechanism in the headline, but when your mechanism is so important that you want to talk about it in the copy, in the body, then there's a technique called mechanization. And that's basically where you talk all about your mechanism. But you can look this up if you want to go more in depth here. There is another technique which is called camouflage. And this is an important principle. This is basically about hiding the sell. You want to make people feel that your advertisement is natural. So how can you do that? For example, when you're back in the day in Eugene's time, when they were advertising in journals, which are like newspapers, people would advertise in these newspapers. And what good advertisers would try to do is they would make their advertisement look like another article, and not just in the way, not just in the fonts, not just in the graphics, not just in the layout, not just in the format, but everything. the way the whole advertisement was written. It was basically just a natural flow from reading a normal article to this advertisement. And people, when you had good advertisers, people didn't know, they weren't aware like that they were reading an advertisement because it looks like a normal article. So that's very powerful because now you can bypass people's defense mechanisms and they will trust you easier. The third mechanism is called, the third of the last four is concentration. And that's basically where you focus on something specific. But how in the book, how Eugene talks about concentration is it's about more about competitors concentrating on their weaknesses and showing why your product is better. That's basically this. You can look it up again, but that's basically what he's talking about in concentration. A very important one, in my opinion, is the last one, which is redefinition. And that's basically where you preemptively try to remove objections. If you're in software, this is what we call turning a bug into a feature, right? So you might have something about your product that people don't like. And instead of trying to hide that, we show that to the people. And we show that it's actually, we try to think of genuine reasons why this could actually be a good or unique thing. And that way you can redefine that in people's minds. And then you're focusing on the positives instead of, the negatives, and people will be more inclined to buy. And this is redefinition, but sometimes it's just also addressing objections that come up and just educating them on why they don't need to worry about that objection. That's what redefinition is. And so using these 7 techniques, the 3 important ones, intensification, identification, gradualization, the 3 most important ones, then the 4 supplementary ones, concentration, camouflage, redefinition, and oh my god, I forgot, mechanization. Using all these techniques, we can interweave all these techniques into our body copy, and that's a way to write great copy. But of course, this is a very mechanical way of doing things, and so you just need to understand all these techniques, and you need to become familiar with them, practice them, and you need to learn to interweave them. And then you will be able to develop certain skills, and you will be able to write better copy. But for now, it's good to think about all these things separately and learning about all these things separately, but then practice interweaving them and making a good sounding and logically sound advertisement. If you like this video, check out my next video on scientific advertising by Claude Hopkins, one of the founding fathers of modern advertising. Next time, we'll talk about practical applications of breakthrough advertising so you get more of a sense of this stuff. So I'll see you guys later. Stay tuned. Bye-bye.